Greetings again and welcome back. This is section 4, and I think we'll do 5 as well since they're somewhat related. So for section Roman numeral 4, one more time, we will do example number, let's see, did I pick 12 here or 11? I think I picked 11 here, just to be different. Now notice the title. It says factoring perfect square trinomials. That means the answers can be written in a format like this. And that, of course, means that the two pieces I'm finding are exactly the same as one another. So, as I start thinking about that for number 11, notice your first term is 25a squared. We need to think about where that comes from. And, of course, if this first term in each part is to be identical, it's pretty clear that each of those must be 5a. Notice 25 is a perfect square, and so is a, of course. Second part, since they gave us that major hint, is to look at the very tail end. We know that that last term comes from the last two parts of this sort of double distributive property requirement if we begin with the product of two binomials. Pretty obvious, 36 comes from 6 and 6, so I guess the shortcut is square root those and see what happens. The other part is we have to look at the sign, and there is a plus in there, so it makes sense that these would be pluses. Now, just to justify that this is right, I can multiply the two black 5a's together to get my first term in number 11. I can multiply my 6's together, here and here, of course, and that'll generate my 36. But what about this term here? Remember last time when we had that plus-minus pattern, there was no middle term, and now we do have one. Well, as it turns out, that middle term comes from two little things. It comes from the product of 6 times 5a, which is, of course, 30a, and this other 6 times 5a piece. The outside's here, and then the inside piece is the FOIL, in other words. 30a plus 30a is, of course, 60a, and that's exactly what we have here up above is the 60a. So this checks out. So my final answer should look like 5a plus 6, close your parenthesis, and square. We know that's true because in the title for this box, we found out that these are supposed to be perfect square trinomials. So there's the difference between section 3, which we just did, and now this section 4. Moving on, and we will do Roman numeral, actually we will, let's see, in 5? Yeah, we did 5 in class. So we will have a look again at number 12, which is up here, and maybe if we kind of zoom in, we can see that a little better. Okay, so notice what's there. We have a 9 at the end, which is good, and 9, of course, is a perfect square, so that's good news. But up here we have something strange and new. It looks like we have two things together, but they're both squared. Also notice what's on the middle term. This is very similar to something we have worked with where we had a first term squared, and my middle label guy was actually the square root of what the first piece is. And as you might recall in that case, our answers all look like this. Notice that right here, that term is actually the power, the degree of 1, which shows up here on those. So it seems to make sense from that fact that this AB guy is kind of replacing our X there in red. So with that connection being made, let's make a little space here. Kind of used up some of what I wanted to use. Decent enough. Okay. So as I look at my first term, what is it that would make that actually squared? It's actually a times b. And what is it if you look at the 9, the last term? That's got to be a 3, of course. That's kind of a gimme. And then see the plus sign right there in the middle indicates I should have pluses here. So this is kind of a special case. Notice that middle term 6ab, that is actually formed when we multiply those two together and those two together, 3ab plus 3ab. So short and final way to write this particular special one, and again, this was one that was a little more complex. So I did choose one from the middle of the list. I would suggest as you do your practices, and again here we're picking 5 or 6 from each of these Roman numeral sections to do as homework, that you pick 3 or 4 easy ones from the beginning set, 1 through 8 or so, and then try one from the set that follows 12 and see how you do. I will also have answer keys, of course, posted for this, as we always do. There you go.